perspectivas em investimentos e imagem brasileiros.
In its final panel, the Brazil 2022 Investment Forum promotes a discussion around the topic of high strategic value, the outlook for Brazilian investments and image. We welcome now Admiral Flávio Augusto Miranda Rocha, Chief of Strategic Affairs of the President of the Republic, and Lucas Fiuza, Business Director of ApexBrasil. And to conduct this discussion with ApexBrasil, Lucas Fiuza, please. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Almirante Rocha, Admiral Rocha. We're here at BIF for our final panel, and it's a pleasure to have you today, responsible for the Secretary for Strategic Affairs. And recently, you had an official visit to 11 countries in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, a very important visit. And what's your assessment on the perception of these countries towards Brazil for a safe port to investments? Before all, good afternoon to the presence here and the virtual attendance. I'd like to thank Apex and the sponsors of this event for the opportunity to be the final panelist of this wonderful event, an event which we realize the high level of the discussions carried, and which awards our position in the global scenario to the good of our population. And in reference to this visit, before talking about it, I wanted to position as Special Secretary for Strategic Affairs, that our Secretariat, throughout Brazil's history, with downsides and high sides, we've discussed with countries that are older than ours. They are an example to us. So strategic planning, Brazil's strategic planning never had a national policy. So this is a big gap in our strategic planning, that the society doesn't see it. And the national policy is the document that which is the shining star, the beacon to our goals. So President Bolsonaro received the government, having the Secretariat for Strategic Affairs reactivated by President Temer. It was extinct, and then President Temer reactivated it. And when you extend such an important office, the structure suffers its consequences. But then President Bolsonaro reactivated and promoted to a ministerial state. But at the same time, it is stimulated all areas of the government, and we see it at every level of the government. See what was happening. But the president has stimulated this movement to the ministry's website from 2019 till today. The development of strategic sectorial plans We did not have a coordination at the center of the government in a ministerial level. So we have a national development strategy with the Ministry of Economy, with the Ministry of Mining and Energy, with the Ministry of Agriculture, including biogenetics. And even in the sectorial level, strategic planning started during the 1930s with the First World War at the horizon. But it wasn't a policy. It was an emergency plan, which followed a war plan, 1944, and then it was consolidated in terms of planning, the GO plan from President Juscelino Kubitschek era. And it followed also the National Development Plan, 5-year plans, which we came to today with the PPAs, but Brazil never had a strategy and a common policy. Within this policy, Brazil has, and this is in the Congress, so the population can discuss what Brazil wants to be in the medium and long run, and we decide what we want to be by looking at the general picture. So, and SAE will also have the large Brazilian strategy. When we look at older countries than ours, many countries that are older than ours, especially those around the more bellicose geopolitical scenario, more turbulent one, they have a large strategy that is well defined. The strategy that is not considering just armed forces, but a larger one. And our strategy will pass through being the main or one of the main food security providers. But why not also sanitation security? And let's not forget about our potential in terms of microprocessors. There's a crisis going on in the world. We that have rare land, officially, we hope this is soon to happen. So we see this practice going on nowadays. So Brazil, since ever the monarchy, has positioned itself as a global player, a country that reinforces multi-discussions, plurality of positions. Even today, with the crisis in Ukraine, we had our position well conducted by our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Carlos França, the multilateral position. Brazil always wanted to be a global player. So before all, we want to be a country that having its image scratched, having its image scratched in specific teams, and in face of against some countries that are friendly to us and very aligned with us, Brazil has led and received the respect and exchanged this with with people who have a genealogic ascendance to us. So Brazil expands this relationship not only in our background, but also with countries that shows us not only within the ethos, but also the legitimate interest we have. And so, in the case of this travel to the Arab world, and two countries were very close, Czech Republic and Hungary, President Bolsonaro instructed that entrepreneurs would board at the KC 390, not only defense sector, and I'd like to thank the support of our Minister of Foreign Affairs, not only the stations, our Minister of Defense, which provided the aircraft, but the Ministry of Defense as a whole. Not only Apex, but CEPROD. And in this endeavor, we had the opportunity to see that Brazil's image is focused on acknowledging what we're doing for the world. As mentioned in the previous panel, Brazil provides food security for millions of people. In today's administration, we secured with the policy of the ministries linked with the Ministry of Agriculture. But President Bolsonaro did not restricted the work of the agribusiness. And he foreseen the fertilizer crisis that was announced. And so it ordered that my secretariat to purchase fertilizers, and the respect that we found in the 9 Arab countries and in the East Europe is repeated worldwide, because it is not the image that leads the discussion. Our action, our administration is leading the image, and what we present worldwide is a very serious country, and facing every challenge is an example. And this comes from many years ago. For this presence, this presentation that we deal with the global teams. Excellent, Admiral. Thank you very much for this comment and the acting of your secretariat and the need to plan this in terms of in the long run. We can remember this episode of the fertilizers, which was, we had a quick reaction to the global scenario, and it's very interesting to see your perception on this, and to that the image of Brazil is paved with the true coming out. That Brazil is the solution, is not the problem, and really we need to fight this and face this and fight that defamation, because it promotes hunger. Brazil is the solution. We feed, like you said, practically 1 billion people worldwide, and the strategy with this is very important.
Do you believe that in a perspective of investment, what actions could we apply to update this positive concept reach mainly the European and North American. How do you see that? Yes, thank you, Lucas. I've mentioned a set of countries where Bolsonaro has chosen to visit, and I led the mission, but I was a mere coordinator of the mission. Even why? Because the external politics of Brazil is coordinated by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the President, but also in a very close relationship with our minister. I've visited these countries. When I say countries, these are countries that are not only countries with very positive and brotherhood-like relationship with Brazil, in acknowledgement of what I've mentioned, to the values that Brazil has in its politics, values to the freedom of speech, religion, and to family. But so there's no, it's not hard at all to show Brazil to these countries that we have such affinity. I won't repeat the numbers. We have had representatives of the many different sectors, but the numbers are incredible. 900 billion reals from 2019 to this year. Yesterday, I was in a stock market with the president, with a fantastic architecture to the Eletrobras privatization. 82 projects of infrastructure, 31 projects in energy, oil areas, including Eletrobras. 29 projects. I won't be repetitive, sanitation projects and so on. So it sums 900 billion of investments. So we have 700 billion in grants. So when you talk serious countries that are not contaminated by demagogic news, of course, we have our problems that we have to recognize. Then when we have a criminal fire that is being fighted in Amazon, we have to reforest everything that was lost, even knowing that we have a credit all over the world in relating to what have been deforested in other hemispheres, let's say. The administration, the government is doing that, although we have to bring the value of Brazil into this scenery, into this landscape. So when you come to show everything what is happening and people know the truth, the investments flow with the naturality. When you have these investors on board of aircraft manufactured in Brazil with a cutting-edge technology. So the investments of these big funds were mentioned here, looking for a friendly shore. The big supply chains that were in a intense globalization movement with under a crisis in geopolitical commitment of allies and partners, those that took unbelievable attitudes. I won't mention which one, but with changes of contracts, breaking of contracts, of vital items for survival and defense of such a country. And we see Brazil, that is a country that has never betrayed any of its partners since our monarchy, or even before with Portuguese, when it was defeated by Napoleon. France has left Portugal, and Brazil has give back the French Guiana. So we have countries that were weakened, and if our strategy was aggressive one, we would have attached them. But on the other hand, we always helped our partners. And this respect that Brazil collects in history makes us to be a reliable partner in this moment of the history. So even if there is a manipulation of many data motivated by the competitors in the overseas field, as is the case of agribusiness. And I'd like to mention the president of Embrapa that is attending here today, Celso Moretti, is another aspect that we see, the importance of agro business and the importance of Embrapa. So the importance of some institutions in Brazil. When you see the Brazilian posture to be a safe shore to our allies, Brazil is the only possible way. I have to agree with you to have this friendly relationship. It's quite important for credibility. Brazil is being shown as a global safe shore for energetic security, food security, and a friendly port for investments, because we respect contracts. The value that you have mentioned, the value of what I have been doing, reflects our image that is paved through actions, not only promises. And events like this, from the highest level, and other guests that were here, given there are primary sources of credibility, are here and are crucial, so the market can precify the transformation that Brazil has done, and to consolidate our positioning as a solution, because the image and the communication of this image is what will bring us in long term the results, the outcomes of our image. So we are closing here. You must be hungry as well. We are hungry, we are all hungry here. So your closing remarks, please. In my closing remarks, I would like to conclude what I have started talking about, the national strategy. The president, to guide us to elaborate the national policy, he realized that it would take time, and it's a document that can be complex because he listens to the whole society, National Congress, and ministries. So it was our task to elaborate a strategic agenda. We have finished, and it's on his approval. It's probably being published in June. It talks about nearly 200 guidelines. So the investments, this opening of the market, the states do not create barriers and the resources of the investor do not go through the government to reach its final destiny in a strategical level under 11 axes that are published in this paper. All the ministries were not only listed, but also they helped to elaborate. But what I want to say is Brazil, with all of it that has happened, is prepared. It's an obvious conclusion after seeing all this information in this investment forum. We have a very serious administration, and I would like to close talking about the image of Brazil that I have witnessed the countries I visited in the many travels that the president has addressed me to do, like Hungary, United Kingdom, Poland, United States, Argentina, among others. I might forgot some. I would say that the work, the diplomatic body of each one of these countries based in reliable sources to the strategic information sources they have. It's to Brazil can ensure to do not ensure that bad image that some Brazilians insist to export from Brazil. But these reliable sources of information, they know that we are very reliable. I'd like to thank all the diplomats that are attending here today, and I'd like to thank the honor. I hope that I was as brief as was possible, because everyone can do their commitments in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank all the Apex team for conducting this event, and a round of applause to the Apex team who did a wonderful job. And also to wrap up very quickly, to reinforce a mantra that we have to repeat all the time, this event is a landmark that exposes the economic relevance of Brazil and put it very clearly that Brazil is open for business, that Brazil is big, and who thinks big cannot avoid to think in Brazil. If you think big, think Brazil. Once again, we thank everyone for all participants of this final panel. And the Brazil 2022 Investment Forum is over. On behalf of ApexBrasil and the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, we thank everyone who followed our program, both in person and via live transmission over the internet. We also thank Itaipu Binacional and Petrobras federal government, which made this event possible, and we leave with the conviction that Brazil offers unique investment opportunities with more security, more sustainability, and above all, with a lot of growth potential. To all, a great day. See you at the Brazil 2022 Investment Forum. See you then.